Okay folks, now we're going to talk about finishing your coil bowl. You can see this project's gone pretty quickly for me. I went ahead and did a third technique. So I've got in my bowl the S-curve, row of S-curves that have gone around. I've done a lot of filling in with raindrops, and I've really smoothed with my thumb and my fingers first, and then taken a wet sponge and really just smoothed the whole inside of the bowl. I'm at the point now where I could let this set up a little bit. It's pretty wet. I've added a lot of moisture to it. So you might get to this stage, sort of wrap your saran wrap in, put the whole bowl in a bag. You don't want to take it out of the form. Let it hang out until the next class period. Then you could come in and start to pull this out. If it feels like when you pull this out of the form, it's really saggy and droopy, put it back in the form and wait till the next class period, or blow dry it with a hair dryer for a few minutes before you try to take it out of the form. I went ahead and smoothed, and now I'm going to pull a banding wheel into the mix here. And this is the fun part. You might need a buddy to sort of help hold the bowl while you take your saran wrap. And with any luck, whoa, there it comes. So you can see at this point, I'm done with this bowl of the form. I can put this back for another student to use. And now I'm ready for the unveiling. So pretty. Now I have a couple decisions to make here and a lot of fine tuning to do still. I can see that there are a lot of areas of the coils where I can see the yucky saran wrap texture. There might be parts that got too smooth and you can't see the definition of the coil. You might need to go back in with a needle tool or wooden tool and do some recarving. Another thing to consider at this point is, do you want to have this scalloped edge or do you want a nice clean lip on your bowl? Me personally, a lot of times I like to take one final coil and using the serrated rib to kind of help everything stay together, really carefully just put one more coil up here on the top. That just kind of gives it a much more finished edge. So you can sort of imagine if I was to blend that in and add a little bit, I'd have to add a little bit of raindrops here to fill in these gaps, but that could just make it look a lot more finished. Some students like to leave the scalloped edge, and that's fine too. What I would caution you on your scalloped edge, if you choose to do that, I'm going to set this aside for a minute, is just make sure that in between the scallops here, that it's nice and clean. One way to do that is with a stiff wet paintbrush. You might need to go in with a wet paintbrush here and do some fine detail work. You don't want this to look unfinished. You don't want this to look unintentional, this edge, like it's kind of sloppy. So take a wet paintbrush or a wet sponge and make sure that the integrity of where these scallops come together are sort of smoothed out here, okay? Your other option, again, what I like to kind of do is to take one final coil and make a lip. So I'm going to do that with my bowl. Once you do some finishing touches, some wet paintbrush work, if things are looking really great from the outside, realize there's going to be a lot of bowls like this on the greenware shelf. It's really important that you flip this over, and on the bottom, go ahead and carve your initials or your name on here. Also, when you flip it over, check the bottom. You know, do you need to do a little smoothing down in here? So once you pull your bowl out of the form, there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still some decisions to be made about finishing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my bowl by adding this lip. I guess I could go ahead and do that. I am going to use the serrated rib to kind of rough up the surface of the scalloped edge before I add that. And realizing now, if I do any additional work to this, I'm doing it outside of the bowl, the form, so I have to be kind of gentle with it. And if I'm doing any additional smoothing, I do have to sort of support the inside, the outside and the inside of the bowl as I work. So to add this lip, just to kind of show you how I would do that, I measured this nicely. I did score up that edge a little bit, add some water. Now I would need to come in here with some wet raindrops. I might even get them a little damp. My clay's getting a little dry. And start to fill any of these gaps. So if I push in here to fill that gap, hopefully you guys can see this. I do need to support the outside of the bowl with my hand because I no longer have that form there. Again, if you're, especially the bigger bowls, if you pull it out and it's droopy, and put it back in. Put it back in, wait till next class period. You don't want to lose the integrity of the shape. Beginning ceramics students, I always have work this way using the form because they just, trust me people, they just look nicer. The bowls come out a lot nicer when you use that form. Some kids feel like they can just sort of free form build with coils, and we do that more in ceramics too. If you try the form and it's just not working for you, come see me. I've got some tips and tricks that will help make it work, but try to use the forms to build your coil bowls. They just turn out so much nicer. All right, so you can see I'm just kind of carefully adding little bits, smoothing as I go, and you can kind of see here on this side, it's a lot of scoring here, so I'd have to fix that, but you can see how that looks nice just with that final rim. So final touches for your bowls, finishing. These are great projects, you guys. Really beautiful, functional work, and take your time. Coils can be a lot of fun. Thanks.